Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be an awesome interview. Finally, we get to talk about AI music. So here we are with Chris Wieduwilt. Chris, before I start just nerding out, you are an AI musicpreneur, all about AI music, all about music. Please tell us about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me on, Beck. It's a real pleasure, and I think this is going to be a great one. Yeah, so my name is Chris Wieduwilt, aka the AI Musicpreneur. Basically, my mission is to empower artists and music professionals to navigate AI in the music industry. So I started out as a passionate musician, faced a lot of challenges, and then transitioned into AI to help artists leverage the tech for both music creation and promotion. But I think we're going to dive into that a little more deeper, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's get to the question that people ask the most. AI music. Is it coming from musicians? Is it going to take their jobs? Is it over for musicians? What is your opinion?
Yeah. So there's absolutely, everyone is talking about it. And I can definitely feel the fear when you're confronted with a new technology that is unknown to you, what it will do and what it can do for you. So I like to be of the opinion of that it's not here to replace musicians, but it's to enhance their creativity. And in the same context, I always like to point to history and throughout history and music, what technology has done to the landscape. I mean, if we look at electronic music instruments, right, that came up and they changed how music was played. It was the gateway to rock and roll music. Purists didn't like it because they felt it's unnatural. Same thing with streaming, right? It made music distribution more and music in general more accessible globally. But at the same time, also it helped take off the eyes of internet piracy. I mean, at the time when Napster and everyone came around, everyone was downloading music, and I mean, I gotta say, I was downloading music as well.
Sure, everybody was.
So right, and then Spotify hit and other streaming sites, and I also saw my consumption behavior to change to streaming music on the platforms. And I think that's the case for a lot of people in the same way with Netflix. Everyone, if you wanted to watch a movie, you were going on a website that is sometimes illegal, and because you couldn't get the movie sometime. But yeah, to come back to music, I think technology has always been part of the music industry, and it's changing how we create and how we consume music. I like to think of it as a gateway to explore new frontiers. It's not about doing AI for the sake of it, but it's to find how it will give you an edge that you like to explore yourself, a pain point that you have in your production suite, producing music, or if you want to promote music, you can use AI. So definitely, I think it will change the industry and some jobs. Like if we take a look at the mixing and the mastering engineers, for instance, I think they're filled with fear right now, seeing the AI mastering tools popping up everywhere, and a lot of the stuff is going to get automated, but it's also going to free up a lot of the time and funnel back, time to what matters more for these creators, hopefully.
Yeah. So you dropped a whole bunch of gems just now. Let's try to dissect it one by one. The one that resonated the most with me is you were talking about, let's say, the invention of the electric guitar and maybe the sounds, distortion, so on and so forth. I'd like to call myself a music buff, and I do remember reading about when the electric guitar first came out. Right, this is blasphemy. How dare you introduce something like this to music, right? And then distortion. Oh my goodness, this is going to destroy music. This sounds terrible, right? Now, like you said, it came to the formation of rock music. And then there, maybe you went hard rock, heavy metal, fusion of the different musics, right? So it actually opened the doors to different genres, right?
Yeah.
Do you see AI doing something similar? Maybe it's something like, you know what? We never would have thought of this had it not been for AI. Here's a new music genre. Or we never would have thought of this chord progression working together if it wasn't for AI. Do you see something like that happening?
I think if you go on these platforms that give you the opportunity to generate music and that is using generative AI, you will see it's based on the training set that it has. You already see new genres coming up and genres fusing together. So just the other day, I created the track, and what came out was I would call probably gothic bluegrass.
Gothic bluegrass. Okay.
Gothic bluegrass. It's if you hear it, it's really hard to describe, but it's an interesting sound. Not all of it that comes out. I mean, you can prompt it to any type of way, right? I mean, the training set based on if it has more jazz tunes or if it has more rock tunes.
Uh-huh.
But if you tap into these different patterns and you come up with new tunes, it will eventually lead to the creation of just new sounds that we would have not thought about. Will all of these ones become popular? Probably not. I don't see a gothic bluegrass
That's an
band
interesting mix. Yeah.
in the next 5 years. But people just are exploring these new frontiers to
Uh-huh.
to make sense how it can. It's music is about expressing yourself,
Sure.
and sometimes it's about, well, a lot of the times it's about pushing your own boundaries.
Hmm.
And I think these
Hmm.
tools give you a lot in your tool set to do that and explore these new boundaries.
Now, I love what you're saying over and over, actually, that this is a tool. It's not here to replace you, it's here to enhance what you already had inside you. You're basically doubling down on your skills, but
Mhm.
you're using these tools to enhance the experience, right? I love that. You're not replacing anything, you're not reinventing anything, right?
Mhm.
Now, the other day when we were talking, you said something profound in my opinion that is still stuck with me. You mentioned there are 100,000 songs a day going up on Spotify, right? That's an incredible number. Because let's
Mhm.
think about that for a second. That means whether you are a traditional musician or you just spit out AI music over and over and over and over, no matter what, you're all still in that same fishnet, if you will, of just this music being pumped out, right? A big question that I want to ask you is how do you get through that noise? Whatever kind of musician you are, right? And
Mhm.
how do you use these tools that are available now to make sure that you're authentic and your authentic self sticks out so the crowd can see it?
Mhm. It's a great question. I think it comes down to just being, not just being a great songwriter, but also being a great storyteller.
Hmm.
And throughout history, we've seen many great, not just songwriters, but storytellers that could make a connection to people. And it's through their lyrics, but also through the things that they say in interviews and now on social media that's making the connection. So it's not just about selling the song, but it's about selling the music as an experience
Hmm.
and music as a tool of connection. And even though we have AI and artists have a unique opportunity, and I want to explain it in a second, it's not enough to just be in front of a chatbot like ChatGPT or
Yeah.
Claude. You still need to bring your brain, and you still need to come up with your own story. The AI is just going to help you amplify it, but it's still your brain capacity that you have, to search into. The unique opportunity that we have is with record labels, having access to some of the most brilliant minds in branding and marketing and PR. It's no wonder that they can craft very successful campaigns for album releases or
Hmm.
song releases. And usually, when you're an indie artist and you're in love with your craft, one of the things that is the most painful is figuring out how to engage an audience and how to stick. And for that person that just read your post or heard your song, not to go to the next song because you just came up on a playlist. And now we have AI tools so that can give you masks and templates that you can tap into that make it a little bit easier. Before, if you wanted to know something, how to write a certain post in a certain content formula with a hook, a nice, adding personality and then and a lesson at the end, for instance, you had to pay someone or you had to scrape the internet for
Yeah.
best practices, and then you still had to write the post yourselves. Now you don't need to write the post yourselves. You only need to bring in an idea, like a topic that is, present in the song, and you input it into that prompt in the AI, and it gives you ideas. And I think that's a great thing.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So this actually ties in a little bit with my world, let's say custom AI solutions.
Mhm.
Yet we don't want to lose our own voice. We want our own authentic self coming out of that set post or set social media campaign, so on and so forth. With music, I would imagine it's even more important to do that because you're literally creating this piece of art that's all about noise. It's all about audio, right? But then you've also got the business side of it, like you were mentioning about, where you had to market this thing in the correct way. So it sounds like they're music is this this tug of war between art and business, right? I hope I'm making
It
sense.
is. No, yeah.
um, can you tell us about maybe some of the tools that you use? Let's talk about the music side first. Can you tell
Mhm.
us about some of the tools that you use that have impacted the way music is created and produced today, yet still holding on to that authentic voice that the artist has.
Hmm. I think there's so I think it was this week. So this week I talked to a producer from the Netherlands, and he produced quite a few really good tracks. And he said in the last 3 months he's been so deep into AI because he wants to stay ahead, and he sees a lot of potential in. One of the biggest pain points that he had was sometimes as a producer he was kind of in the position that he had to find collaborators,
Mm,
and it's not always easy to find collaborators online, because if you work on a track, that's something very personal. First off, because you're letting someone into your creative process. And one of the ways to go about it in the future, of course, there's going to be human collaborations. But what you can do is you extend it with potentially AI voices
mm,
that of artists that are cloned, like on platforms like Kids AI
yeah.
or Voice Swap or Vocalist AI. It's also a great platform. Shout out to Andrew Frampton. They all have libraries of AI voices that you can use to utilize. But there's other things. I mean, I think one of the biggest use cases right now, and I can see that also from the Google Trends, and just the amount of questions that I get is a lot of the things that are about splitting songs into stems to make remixes. And one of the biggest use cases there is to make money. You can use publishing, right? So you can get placements in movies and in TV shows,
Mm-hmm.
or you write songs for other artists. Well, not every commercial or every movie is right for one track, but what if you had the possibility to do 10 different versions? You can split a song into stems if you're utilizing a different song from another artist and you remix it,
Mm-hmm.
and you apply it in that way, or you take your own one and you use other tools to remix your music.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where a lot of the music generators, one of like a great tool is Audio Cipher. It's a plugin that you have for your digital audio station, your DAW, and you load it in and it gives you melody and chord progressions, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an idea, you can spin it further and get ahead without
Yeah.
being hit by a writer's block. I mean, there's so many tools that we could talk about now. I think the access to music creation is just going to be is just easier. And right now we're at 75 million music creators worldwide, projected to be 200 million by 2030, which just is testament to
Wow.
these new tools having an impact on how music is perceived, and that there's a wider use case.
That's multiple countries of musicians basically just doing their thing.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. That's incredible. I want to pull the string a little bit on what you said with respect to AI voices.
Mhm.
Okay. Because that's actually something that I've done. I've done several either skits or songs or just stuff on social media where I used synthetic voices. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, an argument that I got, and rightfully so, is that that voice, the soul isn't in that voice. Okay.
Mhm.
So something that I've tried is, let's say it'll be me singing, but I'll change it to, let's say, a woman's voice, so that there's
Mhm.
at least some of that human vibrato going on. Still, a feedback I usually get is there's some humanity isn't in there. Okay. And rightfully so. That's fair feedback in my opinion.
Mhm.
So what I want to ask you is, how does that handoff work where, okay, we're going to let AI take over, maybe create a brand new voice, but the human has to come in and either finish this side of the track, or there's no way without human touch this thing is getting done. How does that
Mhm.
handshake work in your opinion? Where does one begin and one end?
No, it's a very interesting question. I think this has so many facets to it, and I completely understand that they might perceive it as unnatural. I would even draw the comparison to, let's look back again what we talked about with the electric elements
Mhm.
instruments
Uh-huh.
of purists saying it sounded unnatural.
Right.
Is that maybe this in the same way that we will think about this in 20 years,
That's a
saying,
great
well,
question.
AI voices might just be part of the entire creation process, and we might just see it as a natural addition to
Yeah.
the mix. And maybe it's a generational shift, because I mean, you and me, I'm a 90s kid, so I grew up in the 90s, but I love the 80s, and
Same here.
everything about it. Back to the Future is my favorite
There you go. Yeah.
trilogy.
Perfect trilogy. Yeah.
um but yeah, the way we perceive music is AI is so far away from what we know music sounds like
Mhm.
and is produced like, and it's this new technology. I think the kids growing up now are going to perceive it differently, and I think we can even reverse engineer it in a way that I'm thinking, I don't know, this girl, this guy is going on a platform like Udio or Suno, and is creating this track, and it's, I don't know, it has an 80s touch, and what the heck, we throw in our like gothic bluegrass riff in there or something like that, and or like a guitar solo, and that person that created the track was like, might be like in the same way that I was glued to the TV watching MTV and being like, damn, I want to play like Slash
But yeah.
from Guns N' Roses.
Uh-huh.
And that dude that just created the track and then has a killer guitar solo might be like, I wonder if I could play that. And who knows, they might just go to Guitar Center and pick up their own, like an own guitar, in the same way that, kids from today, like we thrive back to the 80s and we thrive back to tangible items, physical
Uh-huh.
items.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Okay. Okay. So many different
I
directions
just
this could
I
go.
just dropped a lot on you.
Yeah, you did. So many directions this could go.
Sorry, brain down.
Okay. Let's bring it back. Um, I agree. Invention of, let's say, the electric guitar and distortion. This is unnatural, right? And then in comes Jimi Hendrix, blows everybody's mind away, right?
Yeah.
And then you escalate things. You've got Metallica or Guns N' Roses, like you just mentioned. All right, now you've got hard rock in there. You've got heavy metal in there, right? Now you've got this generation of kids, including myself, going, I want to rock out, right? Um, so that's a great question. In 20 years, now we're not talking instruments, but now we're talking human voices. Could that be a thing? That's
Mhm.
a very, very interesting question. I wish I had a good answer or a good philosophy on this, but
Yeah.
I guess only time will tell.
Yeah.
Now, you said something else that's very, very interesting. That kid watching MTV and seeing Slash just rock out on the guitar. Now, this kid wants to go to Guitar Center, pick up his own instrument, right? Starts doodling on it. Now you've got another legendary guitarist, okay? Because in his mind, he copied his idol, but you can't truly copy your idol. You can only be you,
Yeah.
okay? That brings a really interesting question with
Yeah.
respect to AI. If you feed, let's say, a riff or a song or a vocal aria into AI, whatever comes out, is that inspiration or is that plagiarism? Just because a machine did it,
Mm.
is it different?
So this is a very interesting
Yeah, it's a deep
conversation,
one.
definitely, and we can very definitely go deep on this one. I think it's not plagiarism. In the way, first off, I think it needs to be trained ethically, meaning that platforms like musical AI, for instance, a rights management platform that lend out training sets, big chunks of catalogs of music data to other AI companies, and they license them, and then other creators can go on the platform, put in their prompt or even an image or their do audio to audio. The way that they've just generated the track is from beginning to end an ethical process, because the musician put his consent to his training data or his music material being used. So I think we're fine on this one. And it's never a one-to-one copy, even though we do see examples of on Suno and Udio, if you prompt it in a certain way, it will give you material that sounds like copyrighted material. So it can be done, but then it's about these systems putting just either measures in place that never one-to-one copy it, because it's you as a data analyst, a data scientist, you know better than me if you're prompting something in a system and you're trying to go in a different direction. What it does, it's essentially a query, and it's looking into, okay, I'm taking a little bit of this data set that sounds like Michael Jackson, and
Mm-hmm.
then let's sprinkle in some Whitney Houston. The algorithm decides based on the prompting, based on the text prompt, how the outcome is going to be, right? You can probably explain it even better than me.
No, I love it. Please keep going. Yeah.
And so I don't see it as plagiarism, but I definitely see it as getting ideas and inspiration for your own tracks. Because I think what's going to be end up happening is, when I create a track on Suno and Udio, me personally, I would not take the track and just throw it on a platform like
Sure.
Spotify, just because in the back of my mind, I know that it's trained on copyrighted music. So I would feel like copying someone, definitely, because Suno and Udio are just not cleared for what happens to the ownership and putting fair measures in place and systems and mechanisms to compensate the original songwriters. So I would take the music and put it in my DAW, or I would go elsewhere and just manipulate the sounds, or maybe add a solo there, add an intro there, just play with it more. I think it never stops. One prompt, one output, it never stopped there. It's just the beginning. And then it's about making it your own in the same way that, you know, when I listen to music, and I love heavy metal, anything like System of a Down, you know, Killswitch Engage, Slipknot, whatever. That's my jam. So when I listen to that music, of course, I'm going to be influenced by that music when I write music. So in a certain way, I will try to, okay, let's do this like Slipknot, System of a Down sort of riff. And that's how we made music, like like me and my brother in the garage. We were influenced by these, but throughout the process, you just develop your own style. And that's in the same way with AI, I think. You never take the first outcome.
Yeah, I love that. So let's give a live example, because of course we are, right? Let's say we take something like a famous right? If I were to take this and record on it, I'm going to get called out, right? Hey, this is plagiarism. So I'm going to have to go in and clean this up, make it my own, maybe put it in a different key, right? And then publish it. Okay. And if I understand you correctly, with AI, it's going to be no different. This thing is going to be trained on music that already exists. There's a probability that it's going to spit out something that sounds too familiar to something that already was made. So please, you know, don't throw this out there. Take a look at it, be creative, be good, be ethical, add your own touch to it, and then put it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things is that just came up in my head is the companies that are putting the software out there, they need to be responsible about what they're putting out there as well, right? Because if a kid, like a 10-year-old kid, is generating a song, that kid might not know that this is trained on copyrighted material. And if it sounds like, I don't know, a Justin Bieber track, they might not know the Justin Bieber track, and it's just right. So I think in that way, we need to put these measures in place that there's not a probability where it's one-to-one copied, but that it's just influencing.
That's a great point. A lot of times, whenever a music gets spat out, let's say by some music generator like Udio or Suno, you might not even know that it sounds too much like another already existing artist. That's a great point. And that's actually, there have been lawsuits about this, where somebody will use a chord progression and another artist will go, hey, I wrote that song before. And the other artist will go, I don't even know who you are, right? That's a really, really good point. So again, it's be as original as you can, and don't just take something.
I mean, we just saw it with Ed Sheeran. There was right the Ed Sheeran lawsuit. But I think the DSPs and the music distribution platforms like TuneCore and CD Baby, etc., they will probably put in place something that just is going to be scanning the music and well, an AI generated detection software that can spit out, okay, your song actually sounds 50% like, I don't know, Michael Jackson or some other artist. And they decide then, okay, do they want to allow it on the platform or not? Because Spotify is positioning themselves that they don't want to ban AI music on the platform. They're not responsible for the music that gets on the platform. The ones responsible for the music are the creators and the music distribution services.
Absolutely. Great points. Great points. Now let's circle back around to then the business side of things, since our conversation's kind of naturally weaving into that. Okay, we just took care of artists creating music with AI and labels making sure, or the legal heads, if you will, making sure that this thing is created in the right way, not plagiarizing, not copying. Now let's start talking about the business side of things and distribution, right? Which I think is also your forte. How do you see AI assisting in that? How does the business side of music, the marketing side of music, now change with these AI tools available?
There's a tremendous opportunity to analyze vast amounts of data that artists have, may that be to optimize campaigns, organic campaigns or paid campaigns. So I just read a case study about it's a metal band called We Came as Romans, and they worked with a company called Immensity. And Immensity, what they basically did is all of the data that they've collected over the last years and the experiences that they had with promoting their last record, they took that data, the TikTok campaigns and the Facebook campaigns and anything they put on YouTube and organic content probably too. and they analyzed it to figure out, okay, how does what worked and what didn't work, and how do we have to optimize on platforms like TikTok and Facebook to run paid ads, paid campaigns that are going to hit harder,
Mhm.
because we now know what works and what doesn't work. Facebook doesn't always give you straight insights into why a certain paid campaign is working. And it's been progressing very well over the last few years. And I've run ads on Facebook as well, promoting content and promoting art. And it's always about, well, you got to have a great copy, but you got to have targeting that just hits. Because if you've got great copy and the track is about, it's a music track, but I don't know, you're trying to well, maybe music isn't the best example there, but let's say like you want to sell a product, a soap or something like that, and you're going to be targeting someone that is not using soap at all. The targeting is off, and you're never going to sell your product, and you're just going to spend a bunch of money that goes down the drain. In the same way with music, now just came to me. If you're a metalcore band and you're targeting pop, people that like pop music, they might not click on that. So you need to be very specific. That's one thing. I think the other things is, so we talked about campaign optimization. That's a big one. Automation. And this is where that's the real superpower, I think, in AI, is just processing the so much like vast amounts of data that teams, record labels and management companies can use to just make smarter campaigns and learn from past campaigns. Because I think one of the biggest pain points is these labels, and I see that in general, even when I was working for a digital consultancy, there's never enough time to analyze what went well in the campaign, in the past campaign, and how should we structure and strategize to the new campaign so that we can learn from the experiences and the results. It's chucked away too often, and you start from zero again. And with AI, it's just going to take the mundane tasks out of it, because going through a table one by one, there's going to be manual errors if you're trying to sort data. And there's tools like Symphony OS, for instance, that are great, that I want to point out. You can go on the platform and you can run campaigns, and you have an AI assistant to help you with, well, what kind of campaigns should I run? I have this audience. This is what I did in the past. Should I put some money on the Facebook campaigns or the Instagram campaigns? So, yeah.
So it's getting to a point where, again, both with artistry as well as business, the line's getting, I don't want to say blurred, but definitely technologically infused. Right? Interesting.
Yeah.
You mentioned streaming services quite a lot. Okay. And if you think about the business of streaming services, that means they need to have tunes coming in, right? So they can put them out, output them. From an artist perspective, and from a perspective of, let's say, the artist getting paid, overall, do you think AI is going to be a positive or negative with respect to an artist being able to earn a livelihood?
On streaming platforms with
streaming platforms.
Yeah. Well, of course, we've got to face is that there's going to be an influx of new AI generated content on the streaming platforms. And if we have Daniel Ek and Spotify saying they will not ban AI music or put any safety procedures in place, then these creators will, without a doubt, make money out of it. And then I just read an article about some Redditors, they're kind of like speculating about if that band is AI generated. I don't remember the name quite. Something with ginger ales, I think, at the end. But yeah. And they have 415,000 listeners, monthly listeners, which, I mean, if it's just one guy or one girl doing that, that's not bad. It's making you some bucks every month with minimal effort that you put into the craft. And it's definitely coming for it. I think in streaming is a great way to discover new music. Beyond streaming, it's about building up a sustainable revenue streams for artists. And I think this is where it's going to get interesting. So I think these AI generated artists, they can make a quick buck on streaming platforms probably. But if it's about building an audience on social media and through the newsletter and website and selling merchandise or even playing live shows, they need to actually put some business sense behind it. Then it's not just about going on studio, one prompt gives you that song, you throw it on Spotify, you get a quick buck. Then you need to take it to the next level, because this is where the real money is being made. And we're seeing that with artists like Adele. Adele has such a huge following, and she's she's making good money on streaming, but she's making more money playing live shows. So she's just doing a stretch of live shows in Munich, 10 shows, and it's gonna Rob Abelow on LinkedIn just talked about it. I think it's gonna net her $230 million just for these 10 shows.
Just
So
shows in Germany.
yeah, that's a
Wow.
lot of wood.
That's
So,
yeah, it is.
so these AI creators, they first have to get to that kind of level.
Uh-huh.
They don't need to make a quick buck, but is it really a sustainable model
Yeah.
once people figure out if you want to do it and be an AI generated, be open about it. So say okay, yes, we're using AI to create music, and it's helping us, but don't try to disguise it.
I love what you just said, and this ties into one of the questions that I want to ask you is how do musicians stay relevant in an industry where it's increasingly influenced by AI, right? But I think you just answered it in that, and I want to paraphrase a little bit again, kind of like you were saying with Adele, right? There's this obviously naturally gifted musician, right, out there doing her thing. If you are an artist influenced by AI, or if you're just a traditional artist, stay relevant by using the tools that you have available. Okay, use the latest marketing techniques, whether it's AI or whether it's traditional marketing, but use what's at your disposal. Stay relevant by staying true to yourself, staying true to your art, and get out there, right?
Percent could
In a
not have said it
nutshell,
better.
yeah. In a
Yeah.
nutshell, do you think that's how artists stay relevant?
Yeah, I think it's always about I think we gravitate towards raw, vulnerable, authentic people.
Mm-hmm.
And if we read a story that really inspires us on social media, we make a connection with that creator. And that could also be someone that plays music. There's some really, really gifted ones that, they're gonna get ahead even more because of AI. Artists like Nick D or Connor Price that are
Mm-hmm.
very, very successful on TikTok, and they use it as an instrument to build a following. Then people discover their music. Their music is normally incorporated into their short form video content, or there's little sketches that they do on the platform, and then people show up in the comment section and say, "What's that song? I want to listen to it." And they get to Spotify. They love the artist. Go back to either a merch shop, or maybe they want to, they take that next step in the fandom process and they go to a concert. I think and these artists are just going to have more of an advantage than the ones that are, they're going to amplify their voices even more because they already have that business sense infused into their mindset. And this is where indie artists, if they want to stay relevant, they need to, I don't like to say need to, but they should be aware of these tools and what it could potentially do for them and how to promote their music in a different way.
Yeah, raw, vulnerable, authentic people. That's art in a
Yeah,
nutshell, right? Use that as your base, as your core, then go nuts. All right.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, let's talk a little bit about ethics, AI
Mhm.
ethics, and AI music ethics. There's been a lot of buzz going around right now with is the music that's used by these popular platforms sourced ethically? Okay. Some would argue that no, they're not. You're just scraping whatever's out there to the point where there's actually a lawsuit going on right now, right? Um, and then there are those that argue, look, it's music, it's public, it's there. Ethics be damned, basically. What is your opinion on this? How do we make sure that music is sourced ethically,
Mhm.
and that the tools that you're using are basically not running over the artists that came before its creation?
I think one of the biggest things to achieve that is collaboration. So Suno and Udio, I can say about Udio, but I think Suno, they on their board of advisors, they have music artists that are advising them.
Mhm.
And I think Udio, was it will.i.am that even invested in Udio?
Yeah,
So there's artists that are backing these music generators, and they're already involved in that. The lawsuits, obviously, they had to come. I think it was inevitable.
it was inevitable. It was
Um,
going to happen. Yeah.
yeah, but I wonder where we would be in AI generated music if these platforms wouldn't have popped off.
Hmm.
Maybe I don't like people stealing from other artists. I think it's unethical, and it should be people should be made responsible for the economic damage that they also potentially caused, of course, and the artists that could have made some money if they would have given consent. Um, but in the same way that we saw the Napster, we now see Suno and Udio.
Hmm.
Maybe it's something that had to happen. that we saw, okay, technology is progressing so fast, we need legislation now. If everyone would have trained ethically, maybe legislation would have been put off for a longer time. But it's normally about those ones that are taking the biggest risks, where then legislation has to catch up to say, no, this is not how we do it. And I don't know, maybe it had to happen that Suno
Maybe
and
it had
Udio
to
came
happen.
around. And
Yeah.
yeah,
First of all, I
so
love that you give Napster as an example. I'm 90s kids too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, you were saying something. I think I cut you off.
No, yeah, I think there's definitely some similarities. And the IRAA is now also suing them,
Uh-huh.
for good reasons. And I think both Suno and Udio, they already admitted that they are in fact trading on copyrighted material.
Yeah.
But they're not 100% of the opinion that they are acting unethical. So
Mhm.
I think what's important is that that the labels and them and the organizations involved in making sure that artist careers and their copyrighted material is protected, get together and find solutions
I love
together.
that. Yeah.
Because I cannot, I don't know, right now it's hard to imagine Suno and Udio just stopping work and shutting down platforms. There's big money involved already in Suno and both Udio. So there's stakeholders and investor interests that are at stake as well. For a lot of these people, that doesn't make it better than what they did in the end, of course. But Suno is integrated, for instance, with with Microsoft, right? You can use it in Copilot,
Mhm.
and you can create songs. So it's part of that ecosystem already. And I'm wondering myself, is it better that Suno and Udio shuts down, or is it better that the record labels and them the platforms find a solution together to now say, okay, let's do this in a way that benefits us both? Because I think there is an opportunity there for labels to generate some passive income for the artists that are being used to train the AI. What's your opinion about it?
It's a very, very tough question. It's a very, very hard question. I do love what you said about artists need to band together
Mhm.
um, in order to make sure that this material is trained ethically and used ethically, right? But it's a hard question because, like you said, as an artist, you do put yourself out there. You do put your material out there. So who's to say that I got inspired by something and used a whole collection of things that I got inspired by to now, use machine learning and train this thing, um, versus I am willfully stealing your stuff and ha 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 ha, right? It's
Mm.
a very, very hard question. And as I was reading up on this, somewhere along the way, I came about, was it Mozart? Bach,
Mhm.
maybe? uh, One of the famous traditional composers.
Mhm.
During their time, somebody invented this cube, right? That would literally spit out chord progressions in their style,
Hmm.
right? So this dates way, way, way back. This whole conversation, this whole debate. Now, did this person do it nefariously? Hard
It's
question.
a good question.
It's
Yeah.
a very hard question. I'm sure they want to make some money out of it,
Yeah.
no doubt about it. But here's a person that's already performing live and it's out there. People are hearing it. And
Mm.
you're going to get influenced by it because music is such a hard driving force, such a powerful force. I wish I had a good answer. It's a
Mm.
I think it's a debate that'll always go on. But I really like what you said. I think what the artists can do is band together, protect their rights, call it out when they say, "Hey,
Yeah.
I know this is mine because I thought of this while I was in the shower. There's no way you're gonna be able to do this, right? There's no way you can duplicate it the way that you did."
Mhm.
I think that's the best way to do it. Is come
Yeah.
from a place of um, you know genuineness, if
Mhm.
that's a word. Be authentic about it. Be to band together and protect your rights. That's the best answer I can give.
Yeah, and I mean, we do see music producers and music artists waking up to the new reality of. I just saw an interview with Jay Sean the other day where he was talking about it. He saw these generated that AI generated music, and it sounded exactly like him on TikTok, etc.
Mm,
And he just wanted to be ahead of the game, so he teamed up with another company. I don't remember the name right now, um, to basically create his own production style that other creators can use to generate music, with his new production style. Same way that Lemonade Music is doing that with other producers. So these producers are going to be able to now, step into a new revenue stream for them. to have passive income. And I think it's something that producers should be aware about, um, because it's going to be inevitable that when you as an artist, you want to work with a producer and he has a fee of thousands of dollars, you might opt for the one that just, is $20 a month because you can access it through an AI service. So there, it's not about the one transaction of a producer getting 1,000 with one artist, but it's going to be about 200 transactions and 200 artists, where they're going to get the money from. So it's going to be more fractionalized in a way. But if you have a good profile as a producer, you can still work with the artists that you love.
Hmm.
But you cannot be at 10 places at the same time. So,
Yeah,
build up that other passive income stream, I would say.
that's exactly right. I love the example you gave by Jay Sean, by the way. They say imitation is a form of flattery, right? But that does also
Mhm.
mean that once you're getting imitated, okay, time to do something new, time to do something different, right? And that's a great
Yeah.
example. Okay, he stayed ahead of the game. All right, what's next?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's probably something you're going to have to do no matter what industry you're in, be it
Hmm.
music, business, TikTok, LinkedIn. You know, um, you just gotta keep
Yeah.
doing you and keeping creative. You know,
100%. Yeah.
yeah.
Totally agreed.
As we wrap up, I want to ask you, how do you balance the use of AI with traditional music making techniques in your work?
Mhm. So I wish I could dedicate more time to music creation. Nowadays, I'm more on the business side now. So it's definitely has taken a backseat for me creating music by myself. Um, I think, and I like to see that as, so I still like to do it on as a hobby on the side. I would create, play with my guitar, and usually I write the music first and then I write the lyrics. But sometimes it's a little bit harder to come up with a chord progression that I say, okay, this has really potential and it's hitting for me. So I use tools that give me ideas on how I could go left or I could go right or I could go up and or I could go down. There's multiple opportunities here for me. Which one is going to be the most exciting one? Sometimes um, it's good to have these options and not to come up with them on your own. And if you're just strumming your guitar, sometimes you just find yourself after an hour or two, you know what, I'm just gonna, pick it up tomorrow again and see
Yeah.
where it leads me. So you get stuck in that black hole sometimes of creativity. In the same way with content creation,
Mhm.
I don't think I would have been able to do anything that I'm doing right now if it wasn't with AI.
Oh,
Um, now I'm able to try to maintain an online presence on LinkedIn. I can maintain an online presence. I read my newsletter. I create music on a website. That in itself, and just thinking about, damn, writing a blog used to take me like 10 to 12 hours. I can now condense it down to 30 minutes, and my time is more spent on curating content. And in the same way, you trace that back to music. You're now curating the ideas. So before it was you maybe fiddling for 10 to 12 hours. Now you might only be fiddling for 30 minutes because after 30 minutes, you already have 4 or 5 gateways where you can go, and you can think about what works best for you and your music.
there's a lot to take
Does that
from
make
this too.
sense?
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. It absolutely. I think you just wrote the playbook on how to create using AI. And I personally, I'm going to go back to what you said several times and really internalize what you just said. No, I think you just dropped the gem there on literally how to
uh,
create using AI.
I think we're, at the end of the day, I think in whatever we do, we just try to make sense of the world around us.
Yeah.
Everyone has stimulus that, influence us, different experiences. And, this is just another avenue where we can experiment and, get to know get to know ourselves
Hmm.
even better in a way of, exploring new frontiers and things that we might like. And maybe we discover a new genre that we
Yeah.
like.
And we discover something new, and that's what it's all about, right? And
Yeah.
I feel like that's what's uniquely human. You use these
Hmm.
tools, you use these experiences around you to create something brand new, and that's
Yeah.
human. That's not something a machine can take over.
Famous last words, I would
Famous
say.
last words.
Nothing to add.
Yep, yep. Chris, how do we find out about you? How do we get a hold of you? How do we see the wonderful work that you do? And please also tell us about your website and your newsletter,
Hmm.
which is wonderful.
Thank you so much. So I have a website called the AI Musicpreneur. If you're a creator, a music creator, and you want to know about how AI is changing music and what tools exist that can potentially help you to grow, to launch, grow, and monetize your music, then I would love to see you on the website, explore a little bit, sign up to the newsletter. There's every week I'm giving new prompts out. When you sign up to the newsletter, you get access completely for free to the AI Music Manager, which is a prompt library, which will help you create release strategies, write social media content, press releases, anything. And then also a little playbook with 25 plus AI music tools in different categories that you can take as your workflow stack to explore music creation with AI. So yeah, hop onto the platform, and I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm usually not one to, endorse things, but if you're just even a creator, not even a musician, just a creative person, please go check out his website. There is a bunch of just free stuff, wonderful free stuff that Chris has curated and put on his website. Sign up for his newsletter. You'll gain so much out of it. Um, Chris, thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
being
man.
here. This was a blast. I love talking music, and it's much better when you're talking music with somebody who knows the stuff, right? This was a
Thank you so
blast.
much.
Thank you so much
Absolutely.
for your time. Please keep in touch. Hope to talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Beck, for your time. Have
My
a good
pleasure.
one.